Lieutenant Commander Renata Blackwood stood motionless before the quantum display, watching as countless red dots materialized at the edge of the solar system. The holographic projection filled the bridge of the TSS Helios with an eerie crimson glow, each point of light representing another alien vessel jumping into real space. Her grip tightened on the railing as the count continued to climb. "Final tally, Director Harrison?" she asked, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. Dr. Jasmine Harrison, Earth's leading quantum physicist and architect of humanity's most desperate gamble, consulted her neural interface. 817 vessels, Commander. The smallest appears to be roughly the size of our largest dreadnought. Renata allowed herself a grim smile. 35 ships. That's all Earth had to offer against this invasion force. 35 experimental vessels that the Nexari would surely see as nothing more than target practice. But what they didn't know was that each ship carried humanity's greatest scientific achievement, the quantum phase drive. "How's our little surprise package looking, Director?" Harrison's fingers danced through the holographic controls floating before her. "The quantum field generators are stable. All 35 ships are reporting optimal coherence levels. We've never attempted this with more than 2 ships at once, but the simulations suggest it should work." "Should work," Renata echoed. "That's about as good as we ever get, isn't it?" The bridge crew maintained their focus on their stations, each one aware that they were humanity's last line of defense. The Helios hummed beneath their feet, the experimental drive systems pulsing with potential energy that defied conventional physics. "Incoming transmission," announced Lieutenant Wei from communications. "The Nexari fleet is broadcasting on all frequencies." "Put it through," Renata ordered, straightening her uniform. The main viewscreen flickered to life, revealing a being that seemed to defy biological possibility. The Nexari commander appeared as a shifting mass of crystalline structures, each facet reflecting light in impossible ways. When it spoke, its words were translated into a resonant voice that filled the bridge. "People of Earth," the alien began, "I am Supreme Commander Vex of the Nexari Dominion. Your civilization has been judged and found wanting. Your technological inadequacy is evident by your pathetic defensive force. Surrender now, and we will ensure your species' extinction is swift and painless." Renata studied the alien commander, noting the way its crystalline structure pulsed with what their xenobiologists had identified as smug satisfaction. "Supreme Commander," she replied, keeping her voice level, "I am Lieutenant Commander Renata Blackwood of the Terran Space Service. On behalf of humanity, I must decline your generous offer. You dare to reject the mercy of the Nexari?" Vexa's form shimmered with rage. "Your entire fleet would barely register as a rounding error in our combat calculations." "Perhaps," Renata agreed, allowing herself a small smile. "But I've found that quantity isn't everything. Sometimes, it's about quality, and about knowing how to bend reality itself." She nodded to Harrison, who began the initialization sequence they had practiced countless times. Throughout the Earth fleet, quantum field generators spun up to full power, creating ripples in the fabric of reality itself. "All ships," Renata broadcast on the encrypted quantum channel, "execute Operation Ghostwalker. Remember your training, trust in the tech, and most importantly." She paused, watching as the Nexari fleet began to move into attack formation. "Remember that sometimes the best way to win a fight is to break the rules of reality itself." The Nexari fleet launched their first volley, streams of plasma fire that could vaporize a conventional ship in seconds. But as the weapon's fire approached the Earth fleet, something unprecedented occurred. The human ships began to flicker, their forms becoming indistinct, as if reality itself couldn't quite decide where they should be. In the Helios's quantum control center, Harrison watched in fascination as the impossibility they had theorized became reality. "Commander," she called out, "quantum field stability at 98%. The probability matrices are holding. Each ship is successfully maintaining quantum superposition. The Nexari weapons passed harmlessly through spaces where Earth ships both were and weren't, their deadly energy dispersing into the void. On the bridge of the Helios, Renata allowed herself a moment of fierce pride. The Nexari had expected to find primitive vessels relying on brute force and desperate courage. Instead, they faced ships that could literally exist in multiple states of reality simultaneously. All vessels, she ordered, execute attack pattern Spectre. Show them why we named this the quantum phase drive. As the Earth fleet began to move, each ship left ghost-like afterimages in its wake, quantum echoes that were neither fully real nor entirely fictional. To the Nexari sensors, it must have appeared as if the human fleet had suddenly multiplied, each vessel existing in multiple positions simultaneously. The battle for Earth was about to begin, and humanity's greatest weakness, their small fleet, was about to become their greatest strength. Sometimes, Renata thought as she ordered the first counterattack, the best way to win an impossible fight was to embrace impossibility itself. Quantum Dance. Supreme Commander Vex's crystalline form pulsed with rage as the impossible unfolded before him. The primitive human vessels weren't just evading their weapons, they were defying the fundamental laws of reality itself. His sensor officer's crystalline fragments chimed in distress as another targeting solution failed. Explain this. Vex demanded, his form shifting through shades of deep violet that indicated extreme agitation. How are they maintaining multiple quantum states simultaneously? Unknown, Supreme Commander, the science officer responded, her crystalline structure vibrating with uncertainty. Their technology appears to be manipulating quantum probability fields in ways our theorists deemed impossible. Aboard the TSS Helios, Director Harrison's excitement was barely contained as she monitored the quantum field readings. Commander Blackwood, you need to see this. The quantum echoes, they're not just projections. Each ghost image is maintaining a partial reality state. Renata leaned over the quantum display, watching as their 35 ships appeared to dance through spacetime itself. Each vessel now existed in up to 5 different locations simultaneously, creating a dizzying array of targets that the Nexari targeting systems couldn't process. Can we weaponize this effect? She asked, mind racing with tactical possibilities. Harrison's fingers flew across her holographic interface. The quantum field interactions are creating microtears in spacetime. If we can coordinate our ship's phase shifts, we might be able to turn these tears into weapons. Make it happen, Renata ordered. All ships, initiate synchronized phase shift pattern Delta. Let's show them what happens when you push quantum uncertainty to its limits. The Earth fleet moved in perfect coordination, their quantum echoes weaving complex patterns through space. Each ship's multiple quantum states began to interact with others, creating cascading ripples in the fabric of reality. The space between the two fleets became a maze of quantum possibilities made manifest. The Nexari fleet's precise formation began to break down as their sensors struggled to cope with targets that existed in multiple states simultaneously. Their sophisticated combat algorithms, designed to predict enemy movements, crashed when faced with ships that ignored probability itself. Their fleet formation is destabilizing, Lieutenant Wei reported, a note of triumph in his voice. The quantum interference is affecting their ability to maintain coordinated fire patterns. But the Nexari weren't the most advanced civilization in known space for nothing. Vex's form crystallized into sharp, aggressive patterns as he issued new orders. Initiate wide-spectrum quantum scanning. If they want to play with probability, we'll show them true mastery of spacetime. The massive Nexari vessels began emitting waves of exotic particles, attempting to force the human ships into single quantum states. The space between the fleets became a battlefield of competing physical laws, as human ingenuity clashed with alien technological superiority. They're trying to collapse our quantum fields, Harrison warned, her hands moving frantically across her controls. But wait, Commander, look at this. The interaction between their scanning beams and our phase shifts is creating something unprecedented. Renata watched in amazement as new patterns began to emerge in the quantum maze between the fleets. The competing fields were generating stable quantum knots, points in space where reality itself became malleable. "Can we use this?" she asked, already formulating a plan. Harrison's eyes gleamed with scientific excitement. "Those quantum knots, they're like localized points of probability collapse. If we can maneuver the Nexary ships into them, their own scanning beams would force them into quantum uncertainty," Renata finished. "All ships, new objective. Target those quantum knots. Pattern Epsilon, full phase variance. Let's turn their own technology against them." The Earth fleet began a new dance, more complex than before. Each ship's quantum echoes moved with precise purpose, herding the larger Nexary vessels toward the unstable points in spacetime. The first Nexary cruiser that strayed too close to a quantum knot suddenly found itself existing in multiple states, its crew experiencing several different realities simultaneously. Vex watched in horror as his mighty fleet began to fall into chaos. Ships started appearing in multiple locations, their crew unable to determine which reality was real. The precise, coordinated Nexary battle formation dissolved into confusion as vessel after vessel encountered the quantum knots. Impossible. Vex's crystalline form fractured and reformed repeatedly. No primitive species could have mastered quantum mechanics to this degree. "That's humanity's secret," Renata broadcast on all frequencies, allowing herself a grim smile. "We don't master quantum mechanics, we embrace its chaos. We take what everyone else calls impossible and turn it into our greatest strength." The battle had reached a turning point, but Renata could see in her tactical display that this was just the beginning. The quantum knots were growing, merging, creating larger areas of probability distortion. They had changed the rules of space combat forever, but the consequences of their desperate gambit were yet to be fully revealed. As reality itself seemed to twist and bend around them, Renata couldn't help but wonder if they had opened a door that could never be closed. The quantum dance continued, and somewhere in the chaos of probability and possibility, the fate of humanity hung in the balance. "Director Harrison," she called out, watching as another section of space bloomed with quantum possibilities, "I hope you're recording all of this. Because if we survive, the physics books are going to need a complete rewrite." The space between the two fleets had become something that defied conventional physics. What had started as simple quantum echoes had evolved into a sprawling maze of probability cascades, with reality itself seeming to fold and unfold like origami in the void. Director Harrison's voice carried an edge of both excitement and concern as she reported, "Commander, the quantum knots are beginning to exhibit autonomous behavior. They're growing. Evolving." From her command position on the Helios's bridge, Renata watched as the tactical display struggled to represent what their sensors were detecting. The quantum distortions had begun to merge, creating larger zones where the normal rules of spacetime held no meaning. "Define evolving," she requested, her eyes fixed on the swirling patterns of probability that now separated them from the Nexary fleet. "They're developing their own internal logic," Harrison explained, her fingers dancing across multiple holographic displays. "It's as if we've created artificial regions of space where quantum effects occur at a macro scale. The mathematics are beautiful and terrifying." On the Nexary flagship, Supreme Commander Vex's crystalline form had taken on a deep, midnight blue hue, a sign of profound disturbance. His fleet, the pride of the Nexary Dominion, was being torn apart not by conventional weapons, but by the very fabric of reality. "Status report," he demanded, watching as another of his cruisers vanished into a quantum anomaly, only to reappear simultaneously in 3 different locations. "Supreme Commander," his science officer's voice chimed with harmonic overtones of distress, "the quantum distortions are becoming self-sustaining. They're creating what appears to be a new form of spacetime, one where probability itself is the dominant force." The situation was escalating beyond either fleet's control. The quantum knots had begun to pulse with their own internal rhythm, sending out waves of probability that caused both human and Nexary ships to phase in and out of conventional reality. Lieutenant Wei's voice cut through the tension on the Helios's bridge. "Commander. We're detecting massive energy buildups within the quantum field matrix. Something's happening." As if in response to his words, the space between the fleets suddenly blazed with impossible colors, shades that had no names in any human or Nexary language. The quantum distortions began to spin, forming what looked like a vast web of interconnected probability streams. "Director Harrison," Renata called out, "what exactly are we looking at?" Harrison's voice was filled with wonder. It's like we've created a quantum neural network in space itself. The distortions aren't just growing anymore, they're learning, adapting, creating new patterns of reality." The implications hit Renata like a physical blow. They hadn't just created a weapon, they'd accidentally given birth to something entirely new. A region of space where quantum mechanics operated by its own rules, growing more complex with each passing moment. "All ships, maintain position," she ordered. "Do not, I repeat, do not enter any of the quantum anomalies unless absolutely necessary." But the choice was rapidly being taken out of their hands. The quantum web had begun to pulse with a rhythmic energy, sending out waves that caused both fleets' quantum drives to resonate in sympathy. Each pulse drew them closer to the swirling vortex of possibilities. "Commander," Harrison's voice had taken on an urgent tone, "the quantum field is becoming self-aware. It's not just growing anymore, it's reaching out. Trying to communicate." As if to prove her point, both human and Nexary ships began receiving strange signals, patterns of quantum fluctuations that seemed to carry meaning beyond conventional physics. The tactical displays on both fleets' ships erupted with cascading streams of data that defied analysis. Supreme Commander Vex watched in mounting horror as his mighty fleet was reduced to mere playthings before this new force. Ships phased in and out of reality, crew members reported experiencing multiple timelines simultaneously, and the very foundations of Nexary military doctrine crumbled in the face of what they'd unleashed. "This is beyond control," his science officer reported, her crystalline form vibrating with fear. "The quantum field has achieved complexity beyond our comprehension. It's as if we're watching the birth of a new form of existence." Aboard the Helios, Renata made a decision that would alter the course of human history. "Director Harrison, can we establish any kind of meaningful contact with, whatever this is?" Harrison's hands moved across her controls with practiced precision. "The quantum patterns suggest intelligence, but it's unlike anything we've ever encountered. It doesn't think in terms of linear time or three-dimensional space. It exists in all possibilities simultaneously." "Then perhaps," Renata suggested, watching as another wave of quantum energy washed over both fleets, "it's time we learned to think the same way. All ships, initiate quantum synchronization protocols. If we can't fight this, maybe we can join it." As both fleets hung suspended in space, watching the birth of something beyond their understanding, Renata couldn't help but feel that they had stumbled upon something far more significant than a mere tactical advantage. They had created a bridge between the ordinary world and the quantum realm, and now that bridge was becoming self-aware. The battle for Earth had become something else entirely, a first contact scenario with an intelligence born from the very fabric of reality itself. As another pulse of quantum energy washed over the Helios, Renata prepared herself for whatever would come next. They had wanted to bend reality, now they would have to learn to speak its language. The convergence. The quantum web pulsed with impossible energies, its self-aware patterns now stretching across a volume of space larger than Earth's entire solar system. Both human and Nexary fleets hung suspended in its embrace, their ships continuing to phase between multiple states of reality as the entity attempted to communicate. "Status of the quantum synchronization?" Renata asked, watching as new patterns bloomed across her tactical display. "Synchronization at 60% and climbing," Harrison reported, her voice tight with concentration. "The quantum intelligence, it's not just trying to communicate. It's trying to teach us something. The Helios's quantum drive hummed at frequencies that shouldn't have been possible as it resonated with the entity's pulses. Each wave of energy carried what seemed to be fragments of understanding, glimpses of a reality where probability and certainty were one and the same. On the Nexari flagship, Supreme Commander Vex had undergone a transformation of his own. His crystalline form now shifted through colors never before seen in his species, reflecting the impossible knowledge being downloaded into his ship's systems. The primitives, he broadcast suddenly on all frequencies, his translator struggling to convey the complexity of his thoughts. They didn't create a weapon. They created a door. A door to what? Renata responded, noting how the quantum web's pulses intensified at their exchange. To everything, Harrison answered instead, her eyes wide as she stared at her readings. Commander, the quantum intelligence, it exists in all possible realities simultaneously. It's showing us how to do the same. The space between the fleets continued to transform. What had started as simple quantum echoes had evolved into a vast, living tapestry of interconnected possibilities. Ships from both fleets began to experience multiple timelines at once, their crews catching glimpses of paths not taken, choices unmade. New reading. Lieutenant Wei called out. The quantum field is concentrating, converging on a single point. At the heart of the quantum web, a new phenomenon was taking shape. The swirling patterns of probability began to coalesce, forming what looked like a vast, shimmering portal, a gateway to somewhere beyond conventional spacetime. Director Harrison, Renata called out, analysis? It's beautiful, Harrison breathed, her scientific detachment momentarily forgotten. The quantum intelligence has created a stable intersection point between all possible realities. A nexus where quantum and classical physics meet. The portal pulsed with an invitation that both fleets could feel. In that moment, the battle for Earth seemed suddenly small and insignificant compared to what lay before them. Vex's voice came again across the communications channel, but this time it carried none of its former hostility. Commander Blackwood. I believe we stand at a threshold that makes our conflict irrelevant. Agreed, Renata responded, watching as the portal's light played across her bridge. The question is, do we step through? Harrison's controls chimed with urgent new data. Commander, the quantum intelligence is showing us something. In every reality, every possible timeline where we refuse this opportunity, extinction. Not just for humanity or the Nexari, but for all sapient life. And if we accept? Evolution, Harrison whispered. It's offering to teach us how to exist as it does, in all possibilities at once. To become something more than we are. The portal's pulses grew stronger, more insistent. Both fleets began to drift toward it, drawn by forces beyond their comprehension or control. Supreme Commander, Renata broadcast, I propose a ceasefire. Whatever lies beyond that threshold, I suggest we face it together. Vex's response came without hesitation, his crystalline form now pulsing in harmony with the quantum web. Agreed. The Nexari Dominion acknowledges that we underestimated humanity's potential. Perhaps together we can understand what you have unknowingly created. As both fleets moved closer to the portal, the quantum intelligence's communications became clearer. It showed them visions of a universe where the barriers between possibility and reality had dissolved, where consciousness itself could flow freely through the quantum foam of spacetime. All ships, Renata announced on all frequencies, prepare for quantum convergence. Director Harrison, begin final synchronization protocols. The Helios's quantum drive spun up to full power, matching the portal's resonance frequency. Around them, the rest of the human fleet did the same, their systems harmonizing with both the quantum intelligence and, surprisingly, the Nexari vessels. Commander, Harrison called out, her voice filled with wonder, quantum synchronization at 100%. We're ready. As they faced the threshold between what was and what could be, Renata couldn't help but appreciate the irony. They had created the quantum drive to save humanity from extinction. Instead, they had created a path to humanity's transcendence. All ships, she ordered, watching as the portal's light engulfed both fleets, prepare for convergence. Let's see what reality looks like from the other side. The gateway between worlds pulsed one final time, and both fleets crossed the threshold together, leaving behind the universe they knew for one where the impossible was just the beginning. The transition through the quantum portal felt like experiencing every possible moment of existence simultaneously. As both fleets emerged on the other side, they found themselves in a realm where the conventional laws of physics were merely suggestions, and reality itself was as malleable as thought. The Heliosa's sensors struggled to interpret their new surroundings. What they detected defied description, a space that existed in all possible states at once, where probability waves were visible to the naked eye and time flowed in multiple directions simultaneously. Status report, Renata called out, her voice steady despite the profound strangeness of their situation. Her own consciousness had begun to expand, experiencing multiple versions of herself across countless timelines. "We're everywhere," Harrison responded, her scientific mind racing to comprehend what their instruments were telling her. "And everyone. The quantum intelligence hasn't just shown us a new realm, it's teaching us how to exist as it does." The combined human and Nexari fleets hung suspended in this quantum space, their ships gradually adapting to their new state of existence. Through the quantum web that connected them all, they could sense the intelligence that had guided them here, not as a separate entity, but as a reflection of what they themselves were becoming. Supreme Commander Vex's voice resonated through the quantum field, carrying emotions that transcended physical form. "We sought to judge humanity's worth based on their technological advancement. Instead, they showed us that true evolution lies not in dominating reality, but in transcending its limitations." The quantum intelligence began to share its knowledge more directly now, downloading understanding into both fleets' consciousness. They saw the universe as it truly was, not a single, fixed reality, but an infinite web of possibilities, all existing simultaneously. Their previous existence had been like living in a single frame of an endless film, never realizing they could step outside and view the whole. "Director Harrison," Renata called out, watching as her crew began to grasp their new nature, "what exactly have we become?" Harrison's laugh carried notes of joy and wonder. "We've become what we always were, Commander, possibilities made manifest. The quantum drive didn't just let us manipulate reality, it showed us that we are reality. Consciousness and quantum mechanics are the same thing, viewed from different angles." Through their expanded awareness, they could sense Earth far below, its billions of inhabitants going about their lives, unaware that humanity's representatives had just crossed a threshold from which there could be no return. But they could also sense something else, threats lurking in the quantum foam of space-time, dangers that their newfound awareness revealed. "There are others," Vex communicated, his consciousness now intertwined with the quantum field. "Other intelligences in the void between realities. Some of them, hostile. Now I understand why the quantum intelligence chose to reveal itself." Renata could see it too, glimpses of ancient entities that existed in the quantum realm, some of which viewed conventional reality as nothing more than a resource to be consumed. The quantum intelligence hadn't just elevated them, it had recruited them as defenders of existence itself. "So this is our new purpose," she broadcast to all ships, human and Nexari alike. "Not conquest or dominion, but protection. Guardians of reality itself." Through the quantum web, she could feel the agreement from both fleets. Their former conflict seemed impossibly distant now, replaced by a shared understanding of their new role in the cosmos. "We'll need to prepare Earth," Harrison added, her consciousness extending through multiple probability streams. "Guide humanity gradually toward this transformation. And the Nexari. We'll do the same for our people," Vex completed. "This knowledge, this evolution, it must be handled carefully. Too much too quickly could shatter a civilization's understanding of itself. As they hung in the quantum space, experiencing all of reality simultaneously, Renata reflected on the journey that had brought them here. They had started with a desperate plan to save Earth from invasion. Instead, they had discovered that the true frontier wasn't space, it was existence itself. All ships, she commanded, her consciousness reaching out through the quantum field, establish quantum anchor points. We need to maintain our connection to conventional spacetime while we learn to navigate our new existence. The combined fleet began to pulse in harmony, each ship learning to exist in multiple states while maintaining coherence. Through their shared consciousness, they could feel the quantum intelligence's approval, not as a separate entity now, but as an aspect of what they themselves had become. And so humanity takes its first step into a larger reality, Harrison mused, watching as new possibilities bloomed around them like quantum flowers. Not with a bang, but with a transformation. As both fleets began to explore their new nature, learning to navigate the infinite possibilities of quantum space, Renata couldn't help but smile. They had hoped to save humanity from extinction. Instead, they had opened the door to humanity's ascension. The battle for Earth was over. The journey to understand their new existence was just beginning. And somewhere in the quantum foam of reality, other civilizations were about to discover that the universe had changed forever, because humanity had learned to dance with probability itself.